Well, hello, welcome to In the Growth Space. My name is David McGlennon, and I am the host here of the podcast, In the Growth Space. I am really glad that you've decided to join me here today. As I'm recording this podcast, it's the beginning of the year. Now, this may air a little bit later in January, but as we're getting the year started, even at the end of January, there's a real need, I believe, for leaders to learn the art of goal achievement through accountability and the role of accountability in goal achievement. You know, the reality is that it's really easy to set goals, but it's much more difficult to achieve those goals. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that here today. But before I get into this topic, I just want to say thank you for listening. If you would, do me one quick favor. Would you go into your podcast app and rate and review the podcast? If you wouldn't mind just taking like 2 minutes, hit pause, go to the rating section. Typically in Apple Podcasts, you just have to scroll to the bottom and find the star rating. Hopefully it's a 5-star rating. Give us a review. Maybe it's just 2 sentences, something that you've learned, maybe something that you've appreciated, or maybe even a favorite guest. But we would really appreciate that. And then be sure to subscribe as well. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and click the little bell so that you're notified when we load up new podcast episodes, and we would greatly appreciate it. All right, so this time of year, especially as this podcast is getting ready to air, probably towards the end of January, and a lot of people are probably waning now on their New Year's resolutions or their goals that they've set for the year. And it is so easy to set goals. It's really easy to set them because we can just write down a goal. We can decide what we want as a goal, but we need a process to achieve them. And really what we need is accountability. And so I want to talk a little bit about accountability today because I work with so many leaders and so many leadership teams even that accountability is a topic that always rises to the surface. And here's where it rises to the surface. It rises to the surface in those organizations and those teams where the people are really, really close. And there's an intimacy, a friendship even, and yet they don't necessarily know how to equate accountability with kindness. So I'm going to ask you, what is accountability? The first thing I can tell you is what it's not. Accountability is not shaming somebody for not accomplishing a goal. It's not holding something over somebody for not doing something, for not accomplishing a goal. It is, however, doing what you said you would do. It's honoring your commitments. It's accepting responsibility for your own behavior. And that means owning your mistakes. Look, all of us in the process of achieving our goals are going to make mistakes. That's part of it. That's part of the process is failure. And so when we own our mistakes, that's accepting responsibility. And I always think of the quote from Henry David Thoreau: if one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams and endeavors to live the life they've imagined. That word endeavors, it means they're going to work things out. They're trying new things. They're going to try something and fail, and then learn from that, and then do it again and learn from that. So endeavoring to live the life you've imagined, it includes and it requires failure. So be ready for that in the process of your goal achievement and in the process of holding yourself accountable. So how do you hold yourself accountable? Well, first and foremost, I think, is you have to be aware. You have to be aware of first, what are you committing to? What is it that you're committing to achieving? What is it that you're committing to doing? You also, in that awareness, have to be aware of the time that it will take for you to achieve whatever the goal is that you're setting for yourself. It could be a habit goal. It could be a goal that you hit a certain metric or a certain target. But be aware of the time it's going to take. There are some goals that you could achieve in a day. There are some goals that you could achieve in a week. There are some goals that are going to take 6 months, and some maybe that take a year or multiple years. And so be aware of the time that it's going to take to achieve your goal. The other thing I would say too is be aware of the process of achievement. Be aware of the process of achievement. It's an iterative process. It's a process where, as I said before, you're going to try new things and you're going to fail. You're going to learn from those things. You're going to evaluate what went right, what didn't go well, what do you need to do differently next time. But be aware of the process of achievement. And when you're aware of your that process, then you can actually be more intentional with how you are going through the process of goal achievement. Another thing I would say too is just be aware of the impact that your emotional state, your emotional desire behind your commitment. So whatever your why is, what's your why? Why do you want this goal? Make sure that you're understanding and have an awareness of why you want the goal. Because when you can connect to the why, you're going to find a way. So connecting to the why gives you the ability to find a way, especially when you get to that place where it's kind of messy middle type of situation where you're not quite there yet, but you're making a little bit of progress and it's really uncomfortable. When you connect to your why, you'll find the way. So make sure also that you know and remember that when you set a goal, you're going to have to be saying yes to something and saying no to something else. So accountability means I'm saying yes to one thing and I'm going to say no to other things that don't serve the purpose of moving me forward towards my goal. So the other thing that I think that you need in order to have a process for goal achievement, honestly, is honesty. It's honesty with yourself. And this is part of awareness too. So, and this sometimes takes a good coach to be able to help you to really think through and be honest with yourself. Because by having somebody ask you good questions that take you out of your conscious mind and into your subconscious mind, you can get to the heart of your honesty of why you want this goal. And so being honest with yourself is another key to the process of goal achievement. The next thing it takes in this goal achievement process and accountability for your actions and accountability for making progress towards your goal is courage. Always, you're going to need to have courage because you're going to go outside of your comfort zone. If you're setting goals right, you're going to set a goal that makes you stretch and it makes you become someone that you've never been before. So it's going to take courage because you're getting outside of your comfort zone. You're getting outside of the things that you know how to do. So it's going to take courage to act and again, act and fail, and then act and fail again, and courage to get back up and try again and again and again, and learn from each time you fall down. And as you move closer to that arrival point, to that place where you have achieved your goal, when you are accountable to yourself and you have the courage to act and fail, that's going to help you move closer to that arrival point. The other thing I'll say is set deadlines. So sometimes it's really easy to be able to say, hey, I'm going to set this goal and I'm going to achieve it by December 31st of 2025. Let's say we're in 2025 right now. So if you set a goal that is too far out, or a deadline that's too far out, it seems like it's nebulous, and it's so far out that it's not even impactful. So I would recommend is set a deadline for a weekly goal. What's one thing that you can do this week that will take you one step closer to your goal? And then check in on that. In your weekly review and weekly preview process, hopefully you have that, take a look and see what actions you took and what progress you made. Those deadlines of daily goals, weekly goals, and then monthly and quarterly, those are going to help move you closer to the ultimate goal, your ultimate arrival point. And as I'm on this topic, something just occurred to me too. And one of the things I like to compare and use as an analogy in this process is if you have ever sailed, if you have ever taken a sailboat out, you know that in order to get from point A to point B, you're going to have to do something that sailors call tacking. So if you, and I've done a little bit of sailing, not a lot. So for those of you who have done a lot of it, you're going to probably think I'm very simplistic here. But what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to zig and zag and work your way towards your goal by going one direction and then catching the wind, adjusting your sails, going the next direction, and just ever so slightly, ever so methodically getting closer and closer to your arrival point, that point B, wherever you're headed. And that's exactly what your deadlines will do. Your deadlines will help you to be able to tack towards your goal, towards your arrival point. And having somebody to help you along the way is so powerful. And it's not only just having a coach, but it's also having peers to be able to help you to achieve that goal. I know that for me, I'm a part of a mastermind group, and that mastermind group knows my goals and they know what I'm trying to achieve. And so they can ask me how it's going. They can support me. And really when I announce my deadlines, that allows them to be able to check in on me and see how I did with my deadlines. And I'll say something else too. There's a whole body of research on the power of constraints. And I think there's even a management theory of constraints. And, it's so fascinating to me that I know that when I have a deadline, I can get a lot of stuff done. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you or not, but I know that if I'm going on a vacation and I need to get some stuff done in preparation for that vacation from being gone. For example, last year, the last 2 years, I've done a month-long sabbatical. And so I've had to really work real hard at the lead up to that. And I've had to compress things into a compressed time zone. And I don't know about you, but as I compress that time, I get so much more done. And so there's really something to be said for deadlines and having some accountability for hitting that deadline. And I'm sure you've experienced that, but I would just encourage you to set deadlines for your intermediate goals, your intermediate steps towards your goal. The other thing that's really important in goal achievement, and for those of you who are goal achievers, that's your personality. This one is really important and it's really difficult too. And that is avoiding overcommitment. This is part of really being aware of what your capacity is, what you can do, and what's really outside of the realm of possibility. So avoid overcommitment by being aware of the commitments that you are making. And really, this is part of the leadership fundamental that we call honoring your commitments. And this really requires you to have some kind of a system to remember the commitments that you're making. I can tell you from my own experience, there's been so many times when I'll commit to something in a meeting and totally forget about it, totally forget that I made that commitment. So now I have a system in my full focus planner, which is the planner that I use. And I have a system that I will write the commitments down. And then in my weekly review process, I will add those to my task list. And so, and sometimes I'll even put the task or the commitment that I made into my calendar so that I have blocked time to be able to accomplish that activity. So remember what commitments you're making. That's a really a fundamental that you have to be able to master so that you can achieve your goals and hold accountability. The next thing that I'll share is all about I'm going to just say your emotions, that energy in motion within you. And I would say to you to check in with yourself and remind yourself what it's going to feel like when you achieve the goal. What's it going to feel like? What's it going to look like? What's it going to sound like? Use all of your senses. What will you see around you? But check in and tap into those emotions when you become the person that you need to be in order to achieve the goal that you've set for yourself. So that emotion also really ties to your why, your purpose for having this goal in the first place. Not only is it tapping into your why and your commitment to the goal, but it's also tapping into if you want to think about it this way, the negative part of the feeling of regret if you don't achieve the goal and what that might feel like. So being able to connect to your purpose and checking in with your emotions is a real key to a goal achievement and making sure that you're making progress. I said this earlier, but get a partner, get an accountability buddy, get a coach. It's helpful to have somebody that's outside of yourself to be able to ask you about your progress, not in a shaming way, but just ask you about your progress. And for me, it helps me to have somebody that knows my goals, but also knows me and cares about me and knows that I want to achieve this goal for a certain purpose, and they're non-judgmental. They're not judging me. They just want to find out, well, if you didn't make progress, what was the reason why? What happened? What got in the way? What maybe do you need to connect with? Do you need to have an increased awareness? Do you have to connect with your commitment, your purpose of setting the goal? But having a non-judgmental, neutral person asking you some questions and really holding you accountable. And that's the thing that I like about having a mastermind group. I don't want to disappoint them. And having a coach means I don't want to disappoint the person that's helping me to make progress. And so that's a big one for me. I know, just being able to share it with someone who I trust and someone who will help me to make sure that I get out of my own way sometimes. The other component of goal achievement here is to set regular check-ins. I do this with my weekly review process. The weekly review helps me to look back on the week and to see what actions I took that I said I needed to take. So in the process of the full focus planner, The full focus planner is a great, I'm not getting compensated for this at all, but I love the full focus planner because what it does is it helps you to focus in on the 3 most important tasks that you need to take, the 3 most important actions that you need to take this week, this day, and this month to be able to make progress. So those regular check-ins, having a review process is incredibly important. Then the last thing I'll say here about goal achievement and accountability is when you do achieve your goal, when you do achieve a milestone, maybe it's a weekly milestone, reward yourself. Give yourself some reward that helps you to stay motivated and know that you're making progress, and it rewards the behavior of making progress. When you reward the behavior of making progress, you're rewarding those actions and the human behavior that ultimately will achieve your goals. So one last thing I'll share here, and that is how have you achieved your goals in the past? And the trite phrase that success leaves clues, it's so true. It is so true. So look back on your life. Where have you set a goal and achieved a goal in the past? You have them. You have the examples. You just need to dig in. In the Emerging Leader Academy, we use something called the timeline exercise. And it's a real easy exercise. You can go onto our YouTube page and search for timeline exercise. I'm pretty sure that that's available there. If it's not, email me and I will send you the process for the timeline exercise. But we use it in the Emerging Leader Academy because what it helps us to do is look at our life, do some reflection, and extract the learning model that we've created for ourselves to really review our past successes and our past achievements and be able to pull out of it the lessons that we learned and the model, the way we've learned in the past. And it's really important to be able to see how we've done it before. Now, we may not do the exact same thing again, but we can, again, learn from the process. And I'll share with you in just a moment something from my own experience. But before I do that, one thing I wanted to mention is that fundamentals or human behaviors that you can practice over and over and over again are so crucial. And so looking at behaviors like, say, honoring commitments, practicing blameless problem solving, all of those leadership fundamentals that you can practice day in and day out will help you as you move forward in your growth process and in your goal achievement process. Now, I share a leadership fundamental. I share a behavior every week in my weekly newsletter, my weekly email. So if you want to register for my free weekly lessons on practicing these leadership behaviors, I give you a download that you can use to not only just learn about it, but then there's questions that you can use with your team to be able to ask your team and engage your team. And you can even engage yourself as you ask the questions of yourself. But there'll be a link in the show notes that you can register for free for my weekly newsletter. I'd love to be able to stay in closer contact with you. So take a look at the show notes, and we will put that link there so you can register for the weekly newsletter. Now, I did want to, before I sign off here, I talked about the timeline exercise and how we all have acquired some kind of a model of achievement and some kind of a process that we've gone through in the past to achieve a goal, and that includes a form of accountability. And I wanted to share something from my own life that I think might be helpful and maybe give you an example of what I mean. And it's from a time in my life when it was earlier in my life, really at the outset of my career. And I achieved a goal. This is not even career related, but it's an example from early in my life that where I set a goal, and I've set a lot of goals in my life, and I achieved a goal. And so when I look at how I achieved that goal, I went through a process, and it's a process of creation, and it's a process of taking action. And so when I was in my last semester in college, I had this desire to become a pilot. I had lived next to or close to a general aviation airport. And so I was always watching airplanes take off and land, and they're always outside the hangar, and I just loved hanging around that airport. So what I did then in my last semester, I worked the process of becoming a pilot into my schedule, and I started taking ground lessons or ground instruction. And so I learned the book knowledge that I needed to, and I did that in the evening times. And then during the day, I would actually take flying lessons. I would go with an instructor. And these actions then started that process of really manifesting skills in my life. And those skills then eventually, and it was like 6 months after I started, those skills allowed me to become a certified private pilot. And really by doing that, I created a couple of things for myself. And the first thing I created was, again, it was a model of learning or a model of achievement for myself. So I took ground instruction. I went to the classes. Each time I went up with my instructor, I tried new skills. For example, the touch and grow process of practicing landings and takeoffs. That was one that helped me to not only just think in a step-by-step procedure-oriented manner, but it gave me repetition of a task in a variety of conditions so that I could be adaptive with my skills, because the wind is not going to be the same every time I come around the pattern of the airport. And, every final approach is going to be a little bit different. So I had to adapt. And the repetition gave me the ability to be adaptive with my skills. And again, it was a process. It was iterative. So I learned one skill over another. And each of those skills then built on themselves. And that process then manifested a confidence in myself, so that by the time I was ready to solo and do it all by myself without the instructor in the right seat, I was able to do it. And it helped me to have confidence knowing that I had this skill to be able to do something that I had never done before. So that model of taking action and then learning and failing, and believe me, some of my landings were really awful, but ultimately being accountable for my own skill growth helped me to develop my own learning model. And I think that if I were to summarize this lesson, I would say that being a goal achiever is all about holding accountability for your actions and making sure that you can continue just to move yourself a little forward each step of the way every day. So let me ask you this. How can you use this lesson? How can you use these principles of being honest with yourself and being aware? How can you use them with your company? How can you use them with your own goal achievement? How can you use them with your team? I would love to hear how you could use these, and maybe something that that struck you, maybe something new, or maybe something that you knew before, but it was just a reminder. What do you need to create accountability in your life? What do you need to create accountability in your company? Maybe it's an outside coach. Maybe it's a mastermind group. Whatever it is, take action. So let me just summarize the things I talked about and the process of goal achievement. First and foremost, it's awareness. Being aware of what you're trying to achieve, why you're trying to achieve it. Honesty with yourself, with your team, with your coach. Having courage to take action even because of and when you are getting outside of your comfort zone. Create deadlines. The power of constraint will help move you forward faster than anything. Avoid overcommitments. Make sure that you're not committing to too many things. There are only 24 hours in a day. All of us only have 24 hours a day. If you found a way to get more hours out of the day, I'm open to hear. But as far as I know, we all only have 24 hours a day. So avoid overcommitting. Connect to your purpose. Make sure that you have someone who can help you. Partner up, get an accountability partner, hire a coach. And when you hire a coach or when you get an accountability partner, you're gonna achieve your goals faster because you're not gonna want to disappoint them. Just like I know that I don't want to disappoint the people of my mastermind and my own coach. Make regular check-ins. And then lastly, reward yourself. Reward yourself for your progress. I hope this is helpful for you, especially as we're just kicking off the year. So as we move forward here in the early part of 2025, I just want to encourage you. Use accountability. Use the power of peers, the power of a mastermind group, the power of a coach to help you to move forward towards your goals and continue in your own growth path and your own growth process. And so I just want to encourage you. This is really meant to be an encouraging podcast episode. I really want you to succeed, and I really want you to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself here in 2025. And so whatever I can do, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how I might be able to help you as well. And if you're interested in joining the Emerging Leader Academy, there'll be a link in the show notes where you can actually join the Emerging Leader Academy. I think it's davidmcglennenon.com/ELA_register, I think. But go to the show notes and click the link there, get more information. If you have questions, send me an email, david@davidmcglennenon.com. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me once again. And until next time, be well and keep reaching for your goals.